We have been growing elephant garlic here for at least 5 years now, and every year since we started we've been increasing our crop to the point now where we have enough to last ourselves through a whole year's worth of garlic, and also to save our own seed and keep increasing our crop still. As one day we hope to be able to grow enough elephant garlic to sell it as a regular cash crop for us, because it's a crop that we really love and value. And one of the reasons why I love elephant garlic so much is for its amazing deep flavour. It's a little bit more mild than regular garlic, but I think it has almost a slight smoky taste to it that it adds to cooking. And we're between 60 and 80% self-sufficient here for all of our own food needs, depending on the time of year. And so we don't buy in a lot of stuff for ourselves, and that is one of the reasons why elephant garlic is so valuable, because it adds such good flavour to our foods without the need for so many other external flavourings that we might have to buy. And around the end of September is when I aim to get our elephant garlic back in the ground so that it can really start to get growing whilst we've still got a little bit of warmth in the air and in the soil, and then it will be set up to grow all through the winter. So I'm going to show you today how I like to plant my elephant garlic. It's the 29th of September today, and I'm going to make a start on planting my elephant garlic. Any time around the autumn equinox is a great time to start planting our elephant garlic, but it is fine to do right through October, and you've still got a little bit longer for French garlic. So I've had this bed tarped for a few weeks now to help break down the cover crop that I had on there and also help manage the weeds, but there are still a few coming through in places. So I'm going to take the tarp off now, give the bed a bit of a clear up, and then we'll see if I can get on to getting some of the bulbs in the ground. Okay, so I've folded up the plastic as neatly as I can, because we will continue to reuse that for as many times as possible. And then I need to have a bit of a clear over this bed still, because as you can see there's bindweed and there's yellow dock, all kinds of nasty things. But once the garlic gets going and fills out the bed, and over the winter, I find that none of these things are a problem at all, and I don't normally have to weed this bed at all whilst the garlic is in it. And the reason I like to plant my elephant garlic into this bed is because it actually gets really good winter sun, one of the best beds in this area. And elephant garlic is such a valuable crop to me that I feel it is really worthwhile making sure it is in the best place possible. So these are no-dig woodchip mulch beds that we mainly grow in here. But that doesn't mean that I can't dig at all. It just means that you want to try and minimalise the digging as much as possible. But I am absolutely happy to do, as you can see I'm doing here, just using the fork to get underneath the roots of things like bindweed and sheep sorrel, just to help lever out some of those trailing roots a little bit better. And I'm going to also try and get underneath these yellow dock roots and get those out as best I can as well, because the more of the root I can get out, the less chance of them coming back. And actually, as you can see, where this is a no-dig bed, that whole root just came out really nice and easily. And sometimes in the winter when it's really wet, I have actually pulled out by hand some massive yellow dock tap roots, really big deep tap roots, and I have to say that is immensely satisfying. And I've just managed to find enough cardboard to edge around this bed where it borders the grass, because the couch grass and sheep sorrel has a tendency to come in from the lip of the bed. So yeah, hopefully by doing that, that would just give this bed a little bit more protection from the weeds coming in. So yesterday I gave this bed a bit of a tidy up, and now today we've got nearly 250 cloves of garlic to plant out into this bed. And we've actually got a few really good size cloves, which I'm really happy about, because I was actually worried that I had lost nearly all of my elephant garlic crop at one stage this year. So if you've been following our videos for a while, you may have seen us harvest the elephant garlic in July. I wasn't overly happy with how the bulbs came out of the ground. A lot of them had sort of split open quite a bit already. And I'd also harvested it a little bit later than I normally do. Now, both of those things alone, I think, would have been fine. But then we hung the garlic out to dry like we always do, undercover but out in the open. But then we had a really wet spell of weather the whole time that this garlic was hung out to dry. And I kept checking the bulbs, and they weren't actually getting wet rain on them. And the outsides of the bulbs were actually drying off really nicely. So after a few weeks, I brought them in like I normally do, and it wasn't until I was getting ready to plat them all that I realised that inside nearly all of the bulbs there was so much moisture still, and a lot of them were already going bad and rotting. So we actually lost probably close to 50% of our harvest this year. And we grew about 200 bulbs of elephant garlic. And I was actually hoping to almost double the crop this year with that amount, because elephant garlic is actually a crop that we do hope to sell in the future. We think it will be a really good cash crop for us to grow here. But we just had a really unfortunate experience with drying it this year, something that's never happened before. So I actually cracked all the garlic bulbs open there and then so that they dried out a lot better. And I'm really pleased I did that. I wasn't sure at the time, but I think that has actually saved what we had left, because by opening them out, it meant that, yeah, they could all just dry out nicely individually. So we've kept them in the warm, dry shed since then. We should get at least 200 bulbs again, hopefully next year, all being well. So at least I'll be back in the same position, and we haven't still had to buy any fresh seed garlic in. So that is awesome. Okay, so as I've previously mentioned, you want to always save your biggest and best cloves and bulbs of garlic for your seed. And that was quite easy for us to do this year, where I had already cracked in to every single bulb of garlic, which I don't normally do. I would normally store them in their bulbs and then just break them into cloves literally just before planting, or as we're using what we've saved for ourselves. But yeah, so we've got all of the biggest cloves here in this tray, and then we've saved all of the smaller ones for us to use. And even though we did lose a lot this year, we have still got a really good amount of garlic for ourselves as well, of elephant garlic and French garlic too, because we love our garlic. So what I'm doing here is just making a hole probably about 3 inches deep, and then I'm adding just a small handful of our own homemade compost, and then the clove of garlic needs to have its nose facing upwards and the little root end down into the ground. And I'm just firming that down into the hole and covering it back up, pushing the soil down around it. And then the nose of the garlic is probably only about 2 or 3 centimeters below the surface. I don't like to plant it too deep into the ground because that actually makes it harder to harvest. And also when I've done it really deep before, I find it takes longer for the garlic to shoot up, and we want to get it growing on as quickly as possible at this time of year to give it a really good boost and a good start. So for the spacing, I use a generous hand span. So I kind of go from where the end of my hole was, take my hand span and then go just beyond. That's about as technical as I get when it comes to spacing. And Dan did get me this nice long batten earlier on because he knows that I'm not very good at keeping my rows nice and straight. So this is really helpful for kind of keeping me on track, so I get nice straight lines. So yeah, a little bit of soil in the hole. We've got a nice big garlic to go in the ground. Push him in, nose facing up, and then just give a nice little push down. And then once I have finished getting this bed completely planted up, I will probably get about 6 or 8 or so bags of wood chips, and then I'll just give this bed a fresh dusting of wood chip all over to help feed the soil, to give it a nice little mulch on top, to keep all the soil life happy, giving them some fresh material. And yeah, we just find that the garlic grows really, really well in a wood chipped bed. It seems to quite like growing in organic matter, which is only just kind of partially broken down. So we've never come across any issues before, even when, like this bed, the soil has got a little bit of wood chip mixed into it, where this bed has had so much wood chip on it over the years. And when you harvest, obviously some does fall in. Now that's not ideal for all crops, but the garlic just seems super happy with that. So that is our elephant garlic planted for this year, and I've planted close to 250 cloves in the ground. And if we end up with a harvest of 200 bulbs, I will be really happy, considering the issue that we had with drying our garlic from last season. If you want to see more of our garlic growing antics, we've got heaps of videos on a garlic playlist, so check those out as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave us any comments or questions down below. We always love hearing from you guys. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel, Freedom Forest Life, to keep up to date with what we are doing here. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you here again soon. Peace and plants. Back. Come on, over here. Sit down then. Sit down.